Hey everyone, I'm Art and I'm with Ramone. Kevin is not here with us, and we mostly because we actually want to just talk about Godzilla.
Yeah, hi everybody. Kevin hates Godzilla, so that's why I'm here. I'm replacement.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I wanted to chat to you is because you are the only person that I know that is the biggest Godzilla nut. I mean, you gave me all of the Toho and following Japanese made Godzilla films, Godzilla versus King Kong, everything. And I got that from you. So give us a little bit of a background on how and why you into classic Japanese Godzilla so much.
Okay, so well, I'm wearing a Godzilla shirt, so yeah, Gojira.
Gojira.
Gojira. Yeah, so I've been into Godzilla since I was a kid. I mean, it was actually my grandfather introduced it to me. You see, he used to he was like a big film nut, and he loved a lot of kind of like a big broad spectrum of movies, and he loved like B grade stuff as well, just like I do. I love B grade shit. And basically, he rented it. I think the original Godzilla, and he showed it to me. And I didn't really understand it at the time. I think I was like 3 or 4 when I first saw the 1954 Godzilla. But I loved it because it was dark, but like I just remember thinking this is just insane, like just a crazy movie. I had no idea what it was about. But then I watched it later in life when I could actually understand like the narrative, and actually, I mean, back then the acting was great, and the visual effects for the time were just like really breakthrough.
Yeah, exactly.
For the 50s.
Exactly. I've got the 1954 Godzilla on DVD when I found it in London, black and white.
Oh, really?
And
awesome.
It's got the I think it comes with both versions, the American and the Japanese version. Because
the Japanese version is better, actually.
Yeah.
I don't like the cuts. I can't remember the actor they used right now off the top of my head, but the cuts in the middle of it it was a bit jarring, and it just didn't feel like the narrative was the same as the Japanese version. I felt that Japanese version just had a much better impact and story. So anyway, talking about that, I mean, the years went on, and I watched all of the other kind of Godzilla movies, that came out, but the one that was my favorite specifically was Godzilla versus Hedorah, which is Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, the American version. That is absolutely my favorite one. I don't know why. If you look at some of the reviews, it's like probably the worst reviewed one because it was a little bit psychedelic. It was done in the 1970s, and it was this whole like anti-pollution kind of theme and what have you. But I just love the way it was done. Some of the cinematography, the acting. I mean, it was just nuts. It was off the chain, and that's why I loved it so much. This is the thing about these movies, is that they're a visual spectacle, and that's what actually impacts mainly for me, is a visual spectacle along with a little bit of narrative. And also this whole mythos around Godzilla, and the anti-nuclear thing is important, obviously, but the whole mythos about he's a force of nature, and that is just incredible for me, is that he's a living force of nature, like gonna wreak destruction. And obviously there were periods when he was friends with humans and that sort of thing. So I mean, that's great, but it's just I prefer the other side of him.
the more fun side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I haven't gone through all 36. How many is there? 32 or 36 movies?
There's 36 movies.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there's more now. If you include Shin Godzilla, I think it's 37. I mean, I don't want to go and count all the animated things as well and all that nonsense.
I mean,
but
animated is cool, but you want to keep it to the live action stuff, because that's how it started, and that's like the best part about it. And but exactly. I only went through, I think, the first 9 or 10 movies. And I must say that one of my favorites is actually, I think it's the second or the third one where Mothra is shown for the first time.
Yes.
I love that because of those two like girl spirits, those little pixie spirits, whatever, that are like the voice of Mothra, and I just thought it was so wacky, and just how they did Mothra in it, I thought it was actually quite. Later down the line, it was like bigger shots, and it looked pretty much like a thing with metal in its wings, and they just did like this. But it had like a bit more smoke, and it was a bit more up close, and it looked really cool, and I just loved the interaction, and then it was almost like a love story between Godzilla and Mothra, but it was
it was so weird.
I know, it's like, it's a weird one to like, but that one was cool, because I mean, I'm going to hold the first one as my favorite because I'm an originist. I coined that word now, an originist.
Cool.
But
an artinism, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. But then, so Godzilla was always had some narrative in there. It was always, started off with all the nuclear shit, but then 98 came, and then we had the first real Godzilla movie made by Hollywood. And that was pretty much Jurassic Park version 2.0 in retrospect. But I remember watching it with my dad and I'm really enjoying it. But that comes from me not really knowing so much about Godzilla other than knowing of Godzilla.
You see the thing is, I've got a very different perspective to that movie. I also enjoyed it, actually, to be honest, because there were aspects of it that were excellent, and especially the way that the opening scenes unfolded, and all those initial scenes where you didn't really see Godzilla himself or herself in that movie, but anyway, that's another story. Yeah. Well, so that's actually the biggest issue with the movie is actually the narrative. I didn't mind the characters so much. I liked the scope of the film. I liked the way that it was such a big, huge Roland Emmerich, like classic, like chaos movie, really, and that was great. But when they started messing with the core narrative of Godzilla being, I think it's just asexual, maybe. I don't know. He,
could
she,
be.
who knows?
I mean, they probably. I would have probably said that just to cover my tracks. That it's asexual. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So laying eggs and a whole bunch of mini Godzillas running around at the end of it, that was ridiculous. And that part I hated. And I hated it originally as well. I thought it was so stupid. But I liked the other aspects. I mean, those shots originally, I just remember with the claw marks through that tanker and, that original shot where you have that old guy sitting on like having like fishing in the rain. And then all of a sudden there's just like this huge creature, and it had that impact, and that's what I talk about, force of nature. That's very important for me. It's like this just huge thing, and we're so helpless against it. And that's where the 2014 movie just nailed it for me, man. That was just epic. I mean, I did we watch it together?
Yeah,
we did. Remember? We did. Yep. Yes, and that was just mind blowing, man. It was just the best experience.
But remember in the 98 one, before we go on to these actually good ones, it was just one thing. They obviously couldn't figure out a way to, in that universe, justify having his atomic breath. And there's this one scene in the 98 one where he swats his anti-aircraft helicopter or something, and then he's like screaming at it, but like the explosion is blowing away from him because of his breath. He's going and then like the explosion's coming out to make it look like atomic breath. That was like, okay, we can't do atomic breath, but they want to see fire coming from his mouth, so we'll do it this way because we can't figure out a way to make a big giant thing have a nuclear reactor in its throat. But that was, I mean, that movie was so disowned by like the non-casual viewers that in one of the later Toho movies they actually had their Godzilla destroy this one, and I think it was
it was Godzilla Final Wars.
Final Wars. That was funny. But 2014. Now I'm a fan of that movie. I think. Out of the 3 Godzilla movies, because there's 4 in the MonsterVerse, but out of the 3 with his name in the title, I think the first one is still my favorite. What do you think?
Yeah. For me, the first and the second are my favorites.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like the second one, but I'm a huge fan of that one. I think it was really great. I enjoyed it a lot.
The funny thing is because they complained about the first one, saying that there was too much human character and not enough monster. But that's what actually made the monster stuff work the best. And that's
agreed.
And when I watched it with you, and
yeah, dude,
that it was such a slow burn up to the end that the fights became, or the battles between the other Muto and Godzilla, it was it actually had a bit more meat to it, you know. So like,
totally.
And the characters, I mean, the characters were less of a story and more of like a game character getting you to the next stage. That's how I felt it was, you know. So
no, it had massive impact. The only thing that like I personally believe, I think that movie is actually too short. I think there should have been like a director's cut or something like that.
You reckon?
You know, yeah, because the narrative was perfect for that. And you're right, the battles did have massive impact. But I do feel that some of the things, especially the stuff at the end, could have been extended. It felt a little bit rushed at the end. Like, you know, those final like confrontations and things, I mean, everything in there was perfect, but it could have been extended. Just my opinion.
I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about that. I mean, it has been probably about, I think the last time I watched it was just before COVID, the Corona apocalypse. But there was the one thing that people complained about, and I actually appreciated the most, is that the monster stuff was so little, and towards the end.
Yes, yeah.
And that was exactly how the 1954 Godzilla was like.
Yeah,
it was all.
That's exactly what they should have done. Yeah, I agree with you, dude. It should have been exactly like that, and I was happy with that. I mean, the pacing was perfect. All the key beats were there. You know, the way that they. I mean, Gareth Edwards, the director of that movie, I think he's an absolute genius at you know, he wasn't a cinematographer on the movie, but he understands scale, you know, and he gets these shots and just like, you know, that feeling of like absolute dread that there are these huge entities that are just like, I mean, and you get that scope through the way that he directs, and a lot of the other movies didn't get that. King of the Monsters did actually, but I feel the latest one didn't.
King of the Monsters had like a weird kind of compromise that they were trying to get the fans to like a bit more. And I felt, even though that the creatures were bigger, I felt that Godzilla in the first one still felt bigger, just because of the speed of his motion, because he was so huge.
Exactly.
But because like some scenes in King of the Monsters, it almost felt like their movements were a little bit too quick, and obviously it had to be because it's these giant things. You can't have like all the time because it looks weird. So it's like a creative decision. But in the first one, Godzilla felt bigger just because the motions I felt were more correct. And that Gareth Edwards guy, he did a movie called Monsters. Which
Monsters was absolutely brilliant. That is like a flawless movie.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
I love that movie.
That movie is also the monsters that are sort of in the background, that was the kind of approach that the monsters in Godzilla 2014 was in the background, slowly coming into your own space. You know, so it was like, it's happening there. We got to go for it. Now it's on TV, and then all of a sudden, like you're in this train, and then you see the foot, and then now it's in the cities. Now it's like in your world, and then it's like the full fight, and that down the throat thing. I remember when we watched that, we both screamed because it came out of nowhere.
We were like little girls, dude. It was so funny. It was like out of nowhere.
Exactly. He just grabs it and we're like,
yeah.
People must have thought we were
that was
weird.
great.
Yeah, but I still say
matter.
I still say for me that's the best one, because it had a very similar structure to the 1954. I love that the monsters weren't overused, because then you only have to make the fights bigger and bigger and bigger, and then or add more monsters, and it just becomes like noise. So I really like the way it did, and I get the criticism about the people, but it's like you want to watch.
No, but screw that.
Yeah.
No, the thing that's very important for me about the 2014 one is that the human characters were key to the narrative, right? I mean, Bryan Cranston in that movie is just awesome. I mean, he's awesome in everything he does, but I loved him specifically in this. And there's actually something I read the other day. Well, no, not the other day. It was before King of the Month. Feels like the other day. So something I read that when he died. Okay, wait. This is a bit of spoilers for anybody who's not watched it. But anyway, when he dies, right? Apparently, there's this whole thing about how his son sees him in Godzilla. And there's actually that shot where that building falls on Godzilla at one point and he's kind of knocked out. And then when he looks at him, it's very similar to that scene that they did in Man of Steel where he turns into Christopher Reeves a little bit, so it's a very similar thing where it looks almost like they used Cranston's face and did it over Godzilla because he had a very similar kind of like gaze and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it was a very interesting thing. And when I watched it again, I actually totally saw that. And I'm not sure if it was intentional or not.
Or maybe you were looking for it.
Potentially, but I do like that kind of narrative where it's just more of this is his father coming to almost protect him. In a sense, and even though he's like a force of nature, but it's I love that narrative, and I love the human characters in it. I loved how they all kind of interconnected, and there were also pieces where they were helpless, and that was fantastic. Just the way that was done. So yeah, the 2014 one is a flawless movie.
I really enjoyed it. And then we can go. I mean, are we going to talk about Skull Island? Because it's part of the MonsterVerse.
Yeah, we must talk about. Yeah, we can talk about Skull Island. You and I watched that together as well. I remember actually. I think we went to Canal Walk to go watch that.
Yeah, because that was the second. That was the second film in the series.
Yes.
And
was it?
I think it was.
Hold on, let me look. I've got my notes here. Give me a second.
I'm opening up a beer. That's warm now.
Go ahead. Do what you need to do. It was the second one.
Yeah, I thought so.
We had King of the Monsters. That's right.
Because remember, at the end of Skull Island, they had that whole mural thing where they teased Godzilla and Mothra, and then. But like the thing that struck me about Skull Island is that I thought it was going to be shit, and I really loved it. I thought it was great.
It was a really surprising movie because I'm not really like a Kong fan, I have to admit. I mean, I've watched a lot of his movies and I don't know, man. He's not as like, what's the word? He's too human, in the sense. He feels like, I don't know, like Big Man Japan kind of for me sometimes. He's like a bit too human for me. And it's definitely like, it feels very much, even though I know Godzilla's a guy in a suit, right, most of the time. In the older movies, he really feels like a guy in a suit. I feel like I've seen that at like ShopRite Checkers, like on a Saturday when it, yeah, but you know what I mean, anyway, but the Skull Island, going back to it, I totally agree. I love the setting, I love the cinematography, the soundtrack is just awesome. It reminded me of Watchmen a little bit, the way that it was done. The selection of specific beats was just excellent. Actually, I love the characters, basically the whole Marvel cast in that movie.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and Captain Marvel in that was a little bit more bearable than in Captain Marvel. So, but I mean, I really liked it. I liked the idea of the skull crawlers. I liked how he gave the name because it sounded cool. Those were the things that they showed in the trailer. Like, what's his name? It's like
John C. Reilly.
Yeah, him. It's like when they showed him in the trailer, I thought that's where the movie was going to fail. Because it was like, oh shit, they're going to turn this into a comedy. But they did it so right because he was there for so long, and then all he can do is, make light of it. Otherwise, he's going to go insane. And they did that. That was my biggest thing that I was worried about, and I dug it. I liked how big they made him, but also they made him big because it's like Godzilla is so big, because there's no ways you're gonna have a Godzilla versus Kong movie where Kong is half of his size.
Yeah, well. I mean, the thing is, I don't know if you know, but in Skull Island, he was only like a
teenager.
Call him an adolescent. So
Yeah.
And he grew massively. I think that kind of like goes against a lot of the other kind of Kong lore that's out there. I mean, the only other movie that's comparable is the original Godzilla versus Kong, which I actually rather enjoyed. Okay, we'll get to the latest one, and we'll talk about that one.
Yes.
But we must come back to that. So
yeah, because I liked. I mean, you kind of, when you do like a new take on it, and you're going to try and make a MonsterVerse, especially in the modern day, you have to have like a through line or a consistency or like a universal rule kind of thing. So them like saying we don't want to show him at full size just yet. We want to give him a bit of character development between movies. So let's set it in like the early 70s and then come back in 2000 so that we can see that, he's grown even bigger. And I thought that was quite smart, because they could have easily have just set it to be like, 2015 and then just run it on and be like year on year. But it was almost like a prequel. Almost like,
but also there's a writing loophole in there, like you don't have to use the same characters that you use in that movie, because remember that they weren't, even though they had this kind of plan, they weren't sure exactly. They were kind of like, okay, this is kind of the idea. Okay, let's try it. Let's try and do our own kind of MCU Marvel thing, and let's see how it works. So what they did was, from a writing perspective and also from an acting perspective, they got these characters that they don't have to have continuation of.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of did that actually, which is some of the flaws of King of Monsters and Godzilla versus Kong, is that there's only a few common characters that are spread throughout. And that for me is a bit of an issue if you are going to have a kind of unified story. But anyway, the point is that we both enjoyed it. I thought both those movies were great. They stood on their own two legs and they were excellent.
I also thought, like I said earlier, I thought it was really interesting that they set it in the 70s and sort of like you had your Godzilla movie and then your King Kong movie, but it was like set before, so you go, because is he going to get bigger? What's happening? So it might be like, I mean, obviously Kong has had more research on him since the 70s, which is what they get onto the later one. But anyways, we'll get onto that, because the new one, Godzilla versus Kong, there's stuff in there. But next one's King of the Monsters, and dude, Godzilla was awesome, and I loved that how they made Rodan almost like like a fanboy at the end, like a follower. He wasn't really like an apex. He was very much like a beta. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally. But that said, though, I mean, you made an error there. You actually said Gojira, but you mean Ghidorah. So yes. Ghidorah is the three-headed monster.
Yes.
Anyway, so, but Rodan, I loved his entry scene in that movie. It was great. Just awesome. Man, I love the way they changed him fundamentally. I mean, he was never a lava monster. That was never something that was in the older movies. But they were like, how can we make a big pterodactyl more interesting? And yes, that scene with the planes was just sublime, dude. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And also when he fights Ghidorah at one point is also just excellent. I mean, Rodan was great in that movie. And actually, also Mothra was like fantastic. It's I think it's the best version of her in any movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I just love that one shot of Rodan where he's flying over the town and everything underneath him is just burning.
Yes, that was great, man.
That was great.
It's just ridiculous power, That's what I want to see. They're supposed, and this whole thing, and also in King of the Monsters, where they introduced like the theory of them being titans, and all that sort of thing, and being like, and the Hollow Earth theory that they introduced, and that, and all of that sort of stuff. That was it was interesting. It was different. I don't really like the Titan thing. I kind of feel that that's a little bit, I don't know. It feels too Greek mythology. The reason, like, if you look at like the original Godzilla, and you look at all the older movies, he was always like created by man. That was the whole thing. Not he surfaced because of man again, because they found nuclear. I don't know.
Yeah, they kind of made it difficult. Weird. They made it difficult for themselves to keep it like a little bit more logical. Because if all those creatures were as a result of man, then that would have actually been it would have actually been better, to be honest. Because then,
my opinion, I agree.
Yeah. But this whole thing that they were ancient creatures and stuff, so they went like, how are we going to make it that they weren't around for hundreds of years? Hollow Earth, let's do that.
Yeah, exactly.
They said, someone said, what about Hollow Earth? And it's like, that sounds great. I watch movies about it. Let's do that. But like, But the thing about King of the Monsters is that because there's so much monster action, you don't really remember it that much, if you know what I mean. It's like you remember, like,
I'm not so sure, man.
Like, wait. Wait.
Okay.
You remember the fight scenes, but you don't remember how you got anywhere. Then it's like, okay, now there's the Orca thing, which I remembered now. But it's like the characters were so they were what people were complaining about in the 2014 Godzilla, but they were worse in this one. It's like when I came out, I said this movie was great, I loved it, but they really botched it up with the character stuff, like totally. It's almost like they don't want the character stuff, so just do anything and then just have the monster, which is why I mean it's like with the characters you can't remember much.
Yeah, but you see, that's a like a legendary and I suppose Warner Brothers issue where I mean they did that with Justice League, right? So I honestly feel that director, what is his name again? Adam Wingard, right? So Adam Wingard, he didn't do what did he do? Let me just see. Hold on, give me a second. I got my notes. So he did like, sorry. So I know that was, Adam Wingard did the latest one. So it was Michael Dougherty, right? So Michael Dougherty, okay. See, he directed Trick or Treat and Krampus, right? Now, both those movies are like kind of B-grade horror movies, but Trick or Treat was quite cool because it was like a whole bunch of short stories and really well done. So he has a lot of chops as a director. And he was a writer for, I see, Superman Returns, X2, okay, and X-Men Apocalypse. That's fucking... Oh, I see what he did. He actually just did the story, not the screenplay. Yeah. So that movie was botched. But he did X2, which is one of the best X-Men movies, in my opinion. I think that was great. And Superman Returns was, I mean, he matched what Bryan Singer's vision was. So this guy could have pulled something off fantastic had he been given the time to kind of build those characters and actually flesh out the story. Because if I remember correctly, and I'm not 100% certain of this, but if I remember correctly, I remember that there was like word of them editing it down to kind of meet a certain time, very much like we've had before.
I'm starting to think that is the modus operandi for anything that's Warner Brothers right now, because that's the same thing that's been said about Godzilla versus Kong, and even the Mortal Kombat movie. All that stuff has just been...
that down. Mortal Kombat movie is so cuck. Anyway, okay. Yeah, okay. So sorry, man. Going back to Godzilla King of the Monsters. Yeah. Weirdly, I had a different experience to you. I think because I've watched all of these movies, right? I know a lot of the lore. I know a lot of the characters very, very deeply. So, I knew, like, what was interesting for me, I was focusing on the character narrative. I was focusing on the actual plot. And whilst it wasn't too deep, it didn't need to be, but I knew exactly what was happening from point to point. But I think I understand from your perspective that it was very rushed. You weren't sure why this happened and why that other thing happened. But I gave it a rewatch before I watched Godzilla versus Kong. And I honestly, as I said, I put it up there at the same level as a 2014 movie, in the sense of what they got right in that movie was what you wanted to see. Like when that balance of a little bit of character building and then just these crazy forces of nature that just go at it. And I'm so glad that they didn't change Ghidorah's origin. He's an alien.
Yes.
And that's amazing.
I was
thank God they stuck with that.
Yes, I was very happy that they kept that instead of coming up that is also another earthbound creature. Because it just added in like his whole extra things, like, oh shit, how are we going to control him? We don't know. They just got all that mental telepathy stuff and then all the sound, like the electro, whatever. It was fucking awesome. I loved it. Yeah,
it was great. I mean, he was great. And he's always been like an amazing foe of Godzilla. And I mean, like in the older movies, in the Toho series, I mean, when he battled Ghidorah, it was just like, you felt that he was like, just crazy powerful in comparison to Godzilla. I mean, there's that very classic shot where Godzilla almost dies in the older movies, where like the two heads of Ghidorah have got Godzilla's arms and the ones around his neck, so it's like kind of a three-way thing, and it's lifting him up, and he's just getting drained of all his power. And it was that's like one of the best, most classic scenes, and they had a very similar shot in King of the Monsters, which I loved. And I was just like, this is just great. This director knows exactly what he's doing. He delivered. I just, as I said, I just feel that it could have been a little bit longer. The narrative could have been drawn out a little bit more, but then people got bored. And they were like, oh, we're going for box office numbers, exactly. That would have been, they're not going for awards. They're going for box office numbers. It's just a money thing, So I don't know, dude. I don't know. I think it's great.
No, I loved it as well. But there was already starting to like show signs that whatever that they had in plan or that they were working out from the previous two movies, they started either losing or dropping the ball in places, or that it was, like you said, changed afterwards. Or cut down. It was like the character or the story stuff behind it started feeling a bit choppy. That's what pretty much like a big red flag, and that's what is happening in Godzilla versus Kong. Because we watched it not too long ago, maybe last week or the week before.
Yeah.
And I mean, I appreciate that they did the Middle Earth thing. I think they went a bit too far with the science explanation of going to the Middle Earth. Because
you mean Hollow Earth?
The Hollow Earth, yes. I keep saying Middle Earth. But it's like there was just things that
Now that's really a crossover I want to see.
Yeah, Middle Earth, yeah. Lord of the Rings and
Godzilla. Balrog versus Godzilla. Yeah, man. I'd pay for that shit.
But it's like, I really don't like that they keep going with the kid characters. It's a whatever thing. But like when I was watching this, I was like, there's something weird going on here, because it's like they make like quick explanations just to get something out of the way. And it was almost like there was some parts where I was like, did we just miss a scene? Did we just like jump a scene? Like something happened. But
that's exactly how I felt. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. So going back to the kid characters, right? Yeah. I think in King of the Monsters, they actually got it right. Millie Bobby Brown in that movie was great. I liked her character. I liked the way that, in the kind of final scenes, they had her house and all sorts of stuff. I mean, that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that, and I felt connected to that character. But now, when we go into Godzilla versus Kong, the way that they did it, where they have that like mute girl who's got that relationship with Kong, and then there's also like the other piece where Millie Bobby Brown has her friend, and then that other dude that they have to meet who's like this conspiracy theorist dude, and all that stuff. It was a bit cringy. You know what I mean? Like some of the stuff was a little bit cringy. That the scripting was cringy, and I didn't care much for those characters at all. And also, I like that mute girl didn't need to be there. Okay, wait.
I like the idea of the mute girl that made like friends. Yeah, I liked the idea of it. I think they could have done it a little bit better. I don't know how they could have done it. But I liked it that she was able to communicate and like sort of like calm him down in some places. But again, there's other ways they could have done that. But if you had to ask me to pick what child character I would keep, it would be that one, because Billy Bobby Brown and the dude from like a wildebeest, whatever, like that New Zealand movie. What is his name?
Yeah.
They could, for me, go. And then it could just be that conspiracy theorist that continues. It doesn't need those two characters, because it's like it would.
But they wanted to tie in the stories, you see.
Yeah,
so that's what I was saying, is that
it just felt like a bit forced, you know. It wasn't. It didn't feel natural, because in this one again, Millie Bobby Brown is like, "You're not paying attention. He's trying to do this, or he's trying to do that." Was in the last one. It's like, "Oh, you got to control it," and then this is exactly the same stuff. But there was one character which struck out to me that was kind of wasted, and I think is a result of re-editing and chopping down.
Yeah,
was the dude that was controlling Mechagodzilla.
Yeah, that dude was totally wasted, man. That was like, but actually, that whole narrative was wasted.
Completely,
in my opinion.
Completely.
Yeah.
Because they only really touched on it when the spirit of Ghidorah like took over and zonked, and then it was just, you know, Mechagodzilla. And then there was the plot hole. It's like, okay, if they cut off its power remotely, it's dead. It should be, you know, they should be able to try and stop Mechagodzilla, but still going, because it's not the dude running it anymore. It should be good, like Ghidorah is like totally in charge and in like inside that mecha beast. So I was like, okay, so if they just do that, then you didn't really need Godzilla to fight him. You just cut the power and it's done. So
it was really so before we even get there, right? Okay, let's. I'm going to rewind a little bit. Okay, totally. Let's rewind totally, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you like a little bit of a rundown of my opinion of it. Okay, so going into the movie, I was very excited. I honestly thought, okay, this is going to be excellent. It feels like a good mixture of Godzilla, Skull Island, King of the Monsters, and it's going to be just like the best thing, you know. That's how I felt about all the trailers I'd seen, any of the footage, all that sort of thing. Yeah. Then I went into it, and then I realized the way that it was done, and the script itself specifically, was always with Kong in focus, and I had a big issue with that, right? Yeah. Like, it felt like a Kong movie and not a Godzilla movie at all. Like, the Godzilla pieces, he felt like a secondary character in the movie, in my opinion, versus Kong. I mean, understandably, Kong's narrative, he only had one movie, but technically, even though Godzilla had two movies, the second movie was more focused on the broader world, you know, so it wasn't so much about from a character perspective, you know, what he's about and what have you. So but I just felt the way that they weighted the movie, it was always on Kong's side, because he's the humans champion kind of thing, and he's there to help us because he's the most human looking kind of thing. I don't know, like all that sort of stuff for me is just nonsense.
Okay.
And I felt it was really badly weighted in that sense. And that really bugged me, because as you know, I'm a Godzilla fan, right? And I always talk about, I go back to it. Neither of them in that movie felt like a force of nature. They felt like just an out of control animal. right? That's it. Just a big, out of control animal, not a force of nature that we had in the first movie or in King of Monsters, right?
Yeah.
So also, the way that they intersected and those opening scenes and, the reasoning for Godzilla trying to hunt Ghidorah because he can sense his presence and all that sort of thing through Mechagodzilla and, all that sort of stuff. It didn't feel right. I didn't really understand, like even at the end of the movie, I was like, I didn't understand why he was going for Kong. It didn't make any sense at all. Because if Kong is not one of these apexes, right, with their narrative in play, it didn't feel like he was, Godzilla was just trying to get him out of the way so that he could get to Ghidorah because he saw Ghidorah as the primary threat, right?
Yeah.
And because he was sensing him. And that was all like just, I don't know, man. I just felt that was just very poor scripting. I really did. And
I agree with you. There was a lot of forced stuff in there. Like they found a way to force in the Hollow Earth by some weird thing of we need this power source, which is only in the Hollow Earth. If it's a theory at the time, how did they know? So it was just like, let King Kong go in and we just follow him by instinct going to where this thing is. So that was like,
that also that whole piece didn't make sense, dude.
It made no sense.
That part where they're like where they're in the heaves, those like machines, and then they're like, oh, if you weren't in this thing, it would rip you apart. But I'm like, hold on, Kong just went through there, and like he can bleed, and he's like just like naked basically.
And nothing happened to him.
Yeah, zero happened to him.
Nothing.
It's like not even a singed hair or something. Anyway, that was a problem. There were a lot of things in the movie that I was like, it's not supposed to make sense. I mean, okay, we're talking about huge freaking kaiju monsters fighting each other.
But the thing is, it's like you say, it's not supposed to make sense, but it's making it convoluted where the nonsensical stuff is starting to stand out in a world that's pretty much nonsense.
Exactly. That's a problem. And my biggest issue, here's my huge, massive issue with this thing. When they decided to go the Planet of the Apes route and give Kong, he can suddenly sign language. And, he suddenly got all these ancestors that basically had the civilization and built this huge thing and had weapons and shit. And they fought Godzilla's ancestors as a big battle. That made no sense. That was just like, okay, let's add this into the movie so that they can have a reason to fight. That's all it was.
What was the whole thing about Skull Island in there?
Yeah.
Because that was where all those creatures were. That's where King Kong grew up. That's where the bones of his families were there. So now all of a sudden he actually comes from the Hollow Earth, and it's like it doesn't make sense. They only came up with that idea. They shoehorned the Hollow Earth thing just to get a power source for Mechagodzilla. And
that would have been fine.
That would have been fun. They didn't even need to do that. You have a nuclear power plant. What the hell more do you want? It's like it's just forcing the shit in there. But
can I tell you what the biggest issue is? The biggest issue, right? I actually think the way that they teased Mechagodzilla with this thing, right? And Mechagodzilla's execution was shit. That's my honest opinion. Compared to Mechagodzilla 1 and 2, those Toho movies, especially 2. I don't know if you've watched that one.
No, not yet. Not the second one.
Do yourself a favor and watch that one. That one is awesome movie, and the narrative is great. I love the way that they did that. But anyway, going back to this modern one, right? What I think they honestly missed, what they should have done is they should have done Mecha Ghidorah, because he exists in the Toho universe, right? And he was a force to be reckoned with. And even at one point, Mecha Godzilla comes in and helps him. And I thought that would have been a great story. Why didn't they do that? Introduce Mecha Godzilla, right, to fight Godzilla, right? But then somehow it turns out that Mechagodzilla realizes that there's a greater threat because whoever's controlling him, they're probably what are they called? The Godzilla Defense Force, I think the GDF or something in the Toho movies. They should have created Mechagodzilla, and then the other dude. I don't even remember his name now. You see, that's how his part was so missed. I don't remember his name. The guy who stole Ghidorah's head. He should have, because Ghidorah can regenerate himself. That's the whole point of him, right? You see it in King of the Monsters. If you've got a piece of him, he should be able to regenerate, and then just the parts that he can't make him Mecha Ghidorah, and then that becomes the primary threat, and that would have been just flawless, dude.
And then like that was going to happen. You and I both thought that was going to be Mecha Ghidorah. Totally.
Yeah, dude, totally. That's what should have happened, and I honestly believe that would have been a better story compared to what happened, because also Mechagodzilla's execution and design was, I don't know, man. Like the older ones, he's very like Power Rangers-y. You know, he looks a little bit like, like totally ridiculous. But this one, I don't know, man. I just felt he was a little bit like OP for like just the sake of being OP. The way like his beam was, and all that sort of stuff, it just didn't make sense. And I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy that part at all. I loved the Kong and Godzilla battle on the boat, but that last final battle, I was super disappointed, man. I was let down.
There was also this breakdown which I saw online, and something that didn't immediately occur to me is that dude that was controlling or piloting Mechagodzilla was actually the son of what's his name from 2014 and King of
Watabi.
Yeah, it was actually his son. And they think...
Well, that would have been great if they said that, because I don't remember them even saying anything like that.
Apparently his name was in the credits. It's just like his surname or something like that. But and I reckon they kind of hid that because he showed somewhere, I think it was on IMDb, was first that he came in and the surname was the same. But they reckon that what they changed before release, because it was delayed and they did some reshoots and delays, is that he was constructing Mechagodzilla to destroy Godzilla because he killed his dad.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Why not have that narrative? But I mean, oh man, dude, like you see, that would have been an amazing story, because it's this thing of revenge of a human going against a titan. I mean, then we're talking next level. Yeah. Like
then they could have used a Mecha Godzilla. It doesn't matter who you used. I mean, like he still used the skull of Ghidorah to control everything. Also, if Ghidorah can regenerate himself, they had his skull, but not like his head, but now it's just his skull.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing. What I'm saying, it's just his skull, which didn't make sense.
Yeah, because like if his cellular stuff in there, then it would make more sense. But they just wanted him to be in the skull to pilot the thing. That's what they were trying, like this visual. But it just kind of makes things a bit like but. But yeah, I mean, that was a storyline that would have made a lot more sense, and then you wouldn't even need Millie Bobby Brown and the other characters. It could have just focused on that bit. Almost like what Suicide Squad should have been, which was Suicide Squad versus Joker, instead of all these other pieces of shit. There is something that's missing, and that's a singular focus. And in Godzilla 2014, there was a singular focus. There was Godzilla, and then there was these other Muto that was coming up, and then it was that. Skull Island was the singular focus was of Skull Island, so that's cool. It's like the whole backstory about the island, and then King Kong and everything there. King of the Monsters, that's where they started going into two focuses a little bit. They're trying to explain too much while showing what's actually happening, and there's this alien creature, and then these other things that are being awoken by him to like take control, and then Godzilla coming in to stop all of it. And then I love that scene at the end when he won, and he's just like looking around, they're all like bowing to him. Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was the shit. That was awesome. But you see, this is for me, that's also missed opportunity stuff. I mean, where are all those like other titans? You know what I mean? Like the big spider thing.
They could have been in. They could have been in here. That's the thing. Like,
why not?
Exactly. So it's almost like they don't exist anymore. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's like they like with the last one, they went so big. And now they want to have this Godzilla versus Kong thing. It's like, oh shit, but what are we going to do about all these other ones? Let's not mention them. and then we'll just have something that Godzilla is attacking because we want them to fight. There's other ways they could have made them fight, but now now they've introduced Godzilla and Kong together, and Mechagodzilla and Hollow Earth, and another faction of people that's built this, and a storyline that they wanted to have where the son was avenging the dad by trying to take out Godzilla. And they were like, okay,
we got to cut something.
They got to cut something, and I think they cut the wrong thing. I think they cut the wrong thing.
Agree. Yeah, I agree. Although there was one thing that I remember that was really cool, right? Even though the narrative was nonsense, when Kong was in a Hollow Earth and he had to fight those snake things with the wings, what are they called? Hellbats or some nonsense? I don't know. Anyway, they were awesome. It was that was a cool scene. I loved that scene, the way they would tour them, the way the one tried to like suffocate him and stuff. I was like, that was cool. Like the way that was done, that reminded me of Skull Island when he like fought that like queen skull crawler. You know, when he fought the queen, that was great. You know, but I don't know, dude. I don't understand why it's getting all these rave reviews. I suppose because, okay, here's the thing. And I don't know if you know this, but Godzilla vs. Kong was written by Terry Rossio, right? Now, Terry Rossio is known for like writing a whole bunch of like Disney movies. He did all the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff. He did the original Aladdin. He actually did the remake Aladdin, which was nonsense. But that, like, actually, hold on, I've got some notes here about that. He did the Lone Ranger, which was a joke. He did like National Treasure. He did National Treasure Book of Secrets. He did the only movie that I've ever actually enjoyed of his that I actually thought from a writing perspective and screenplay perspective was Treasure Planet. Oh, he also wrote Shrek as well. So anyway, so this guy, he's known for all these kinds of movies, but I don't feel he was the right writer. I feel this is why they've got this kid who's a mute in it. This is why they've got all that focus where they humanize Kong in the sense that he can suddenly have sign language and there's that emotive nature of him. I mean, it's important for him to have a little bit of emotion, right? Yeah. But this is where the Peter Jackson's version was actually a little bit better in the sense of, well, Kong himself.
Kong himself, so okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not talking about the whole movie. I'm talking about
that wasn't that good.
No. But no. Wasn't that good? But what they got right in that movie was Kong, in my opinion, in the sense of, you know, he looked like a silverback gorilla, right? That was the one thing that they got really right. You know, the way that his nature was in that movie was a lot more what I expected Kong to actually be like. Yeah. But you see, Skull Island, they did that quite well. He was emotive in a sense, but he just acted upon instinct. You know, a lot of the stuff was upon instinct and just doing it. And whereas this one, he was like talking to her, he wants to go home and all that stuff. And he knows about the thing and he chucks a stick up. I'm like, okay, it's too much like Planet of the Apes. I don't want to see that. Kong must be the scary freaking like huge monster ape that I want to like kick Godzilla's ass and vice versa, basically. And, you know, that whole thing where it's like no one bows to Kong, but meanwhile, Kong bows to no one, but meanwhile, like Godzilla whipped his ass at the end anyway, just like in the old movie as well, you know. But I don't know. I just feel like there's too many plot loopholes, bro. That's my issue.
Yeah, there's the thing is, it's like I know that these movies have their detractors and people that are not really a fan of it. Yeah, and I still think that in trying to listen to these criticisms, they're actually shooting themselves in the foot with this recent one when, as you said, it should have been amazing and it wasn't, you know.
Yeah, look,
and it's because, like I said, they put too much story elements and world building stuff in there, or responses to world building. It was just too much, and it just made it like, okay, this definitely doesn't feel like a movie that has a focus, because something like this big, you need at least a big singular focus. It's like, why was Godzilla like responding or trying to attack or go after Kong when he was also going after Ghidorah. When he's known that he must have known that Kong's been around since the 70s, since the 40s, because he's been around for that long. So why didn't he attack then? And
he wasn't hidden in that dome thing protecting him from Godzilla's like sensors, because they were using anti-orca technology, all that stuff. Wow. It was just like you're adding nonsense for the reason of adding nonsense.
Yeah.
But okay, here's one thing I'll say is that it was a financial success according to the stuff I've read.
Yeah.
Which is weird because look, it's a popcorn movie. A lot of my friends that who don't care about any of the older Godzilla movies, they haven't watched any of that stuff. They don't know the lore. They don't know. They don't normally watch kaiju movies, but they do like popcorn movies. They'll be like a type of person who goes and watches maybe Fast and Furious or something like that.
Yeah.
And like while those movies are fun, they're also nonsense narrative. You see, but they make money. And it's pretty much the same as I feel about Godzilla versus Kong, is that there were some cool shots in it. Like some of it was, okay, that's cool. It's like well done. The lighting's really nice. And, the CG was great. I can't flaw it, really. It was really good CG. So that sort of stuff is cool. I mean, if that's what people want to see. But if you compare it to the other movies in the series, I feel it falls flat. And
it did.
Yeah.
And it's a huge shame. Yeah. When
huge
the other one should have fallen flat theoretically, because Godzilla only came towards the end, and then there's a whole bunch of monsters. There would be like Pacific Rim but with monsters, and then you would think that those movies would fall flat, but then you get this one which totally like makes you go like but this, but that, and then. And I don't know. I really don't know. It's almost like to like these movies, you must not know anything about Godzilla and Kong from before, like nothing.
Yeah.
And then you might be into it. But if that's the problem with you and me, that if they are taking an intellectual property, and trying their own thing and lose the point. We notice, and then either we can say, okay, they changed enough and they made something different, like Man of Steel, for instance. It was like a departure, but it was like he was actually building the character up rather than just bringing him in. It's like, okay, he's building him up. That's interesting. We haven't seen that before. Like, how would he deal, with all these powers in the world, and he has to try to keep it quiet, and then all of a sudden he's forced to come forward and save everything, and he's like, what the hell? I mean, that's interesting. But
I mean, that's what they did in the 2014 one.
Yeah, that's what they did with the 2014 one. It's like
exactly.
And it's like, holy shit! Like these things came up, and this Godzilla came up and stopped them because he was to keep the balance. They spoke, but it was all about the balance. But now in this one, where is that balance talk? Because now he's just
it's gone.
It's gone.
It's like whatever. Yeah, and the thing he was crowned king. Like what they should have done. It should have been actually very simple. It should have been like a twofold movie, right? Where they could have like almost pulled like a Dark Knight, sort of the way that they split that narrative a little bit, but where they could have gone the first part of the movie. So they should have opened potentially with what's his name, Ken Watabe's son, whatever his name was. They should have opened with him maybe seeing his father die or something like that.
Yeah, or learning about that his father died. Even though his dad killed himself to save Godzilla, and it wasn't the other way around.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe there was something where he didn't agree with it or whatever, and we see that a little bit. Then they could have cut to the next part where maybe Kong can be in a dome. I'm okay with that. It's fine. No little girl. Yeah. He could have try to break out. Maybe not throwing a spear, but maybe trying to climb up there and smash the shit out of it or something like that. That would have been great. And by breaking it, then all of a sudden Godzilla senses his presence, right?
Yeah.
That would have made sense, could have explained.
Not really.
No, wait. Wait, let me get there. So when he was in Skull Island and they didn't have that, right? They didn't have this dome thing, right? Potentially they could have explained that Skull Island naturally has some magnetic force field or some crap that hid this island from all sorts of other like Titan's view, right? Mm-hmm. That's why there's like different creatures there, like the spider bamboo thing and the skull crawlers and all sorts of nonsense that no other Titan picked up. Right? They could have explained it that way. Anyway, then they could have had this thing where Godzilla picks up his thing and it goes straight for him. Nothing about Mechagodzilla at the moment. Nothing. Zero. Nada. Right? Not even sensing that. Then, when they're having their battles and stuff, that's when you see the other guy's first success with a Mechagodzilla, and you could see that awaken. And that would be the reason why Godzilla would stop fighting with King Kong, because he senses a greater threat. And that would have been great.
Like
Talk about great names.
Like they reactivate or find a way to wake up Ghidorah, and then it'd be like...
Yeah, then he'd be like, holy shit, can I just knock him with his tail, then like drown or some shit and go off, you know? That would have been awesome. Then that whole narrative could have happened. But the way that they did it, and then they could have left the Hollow Earth out stuff completely.
They could have,
Kong doesn't need a bloody weapon. I don't know any shit like that. That was like at a dorsal fin of a previous Godzilla. No, there's only one Godzilla.
And there was like an impression in the ground that you got to put in like a key.
Yeah, dude. Like, no. Like, it's just, that's just bullshit.
That's taking it too far. That's adding too much complexity. It's like, how
Okay. I will say this though. The original, like, Godzilla versus Kong, where he gets lightning powers when Godzilla defeats him, and he then can kick his ass because he's like super strong and swings him around with a tail and all that stuff. That would have been cool. Like to redo sort of, but maybe it couldn't have been like lightning powers. It could have been some, I don't know, some sort of like electrical injection or some cuck from one of those other people. That would have been fine. Then it would have been kind of a nod to the older movie. But having a bloody weapon that like absorbs Godzilla's stuff, I don't know, man.
Because then, I don't know. I mean, I can see why they would think that the blade would absorb, because when he does activate his atomic breath, the blades like glow. But it's another Godzilla.
It doesn't make sense, dude. Sorry. And also, anyway.
But I mean, I reckon they totally dropped something, and it is. I was very underwhelmed. Because it was just like, we don't need this Hollow Earth. We don't need these kids. The only thing we need is something like you said, I think would have worked great. Is like, why is Godzilla fighting Kong? There was no...
Yeah, that's all we need.
That's all we need. And then, the dude's son building a Mecha Godzilla with Ghidorah's spirit or whatever, to kill Godzilla for killing his dad, which actually that is where the story is. That's why you would have.
Well. You see, I would have separated the two.
You separated exactly like you said. I would have the two. Yeah.
But also I wouldn't have had the guy use Ghidorah's head to power Mechagodzilla and control it, right? I wouldn't do that whole thing. That didn't make any sense, because in all the older movies. No, none of that. No, I would keep Ghidorah's head as a separate storyline.
Yes.
I would keep that as a totally separate storyline where that becomes Mecha Ghidorah. Because then you've got some amazing story that you can add to it, and a reason for Mecha Godzilla to turn around while the guy piloting him and saying, actually, Godzilla is not here to kill me. This is why my father sacrificed himself, and I will fight alongside them. Imagine the three of them fighting Mecha Ghidorah. Whoa. Holy crap. That would have been like the best movie of the year, but no.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. And that would have been rad, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's upset. Yeah, but so, overall, your experience of these monster movies, are you happy with it?
Overall?
Yeah, overall.
Yeah, dude. Here's the thing. I'm a fan. And I'm really happy that we've got to see some like modern takes on it, very much. After the '98 movie, like stuffed it up like totally. You know, his design was also a little bit Zilla's design.
It was pretty much just a raptor from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's all it was. But they really got a number of things right in this whole series, and I really do hope that the MonsterVerse actually does continue.
Yeah.
I do. They're talking about it now because they wanted to see the success of Godzilla versus Kong, and but I don't know where they'll go. That's the other problem, is that they've I feel like they've written themselves into a bit of a corner, and with this latest movie. So that's the issue, really. But overall, I mean, how does your scoring thing work with like thumbs up for this thing, right?
Okay. So there's two hands. It's quite complicated. There's two hands. Okay. You for yourself, you would assign a hand to something. So either like what you thought and technically what it is. So for me, I would be like, for the overall Godzilla stuff, I would give it like a thumbs up, and then I'd also give it like a meh, because there's just the last one is kind of just ruined stuff, because I would be a bit more interested if there was a clearer path and what they could add on, and they, like you said, they short shifted themselves, so it's like a thumbs up and thumbs up and a meh. That's what it is for me.
Yeah, but okay, so if is that just Godzilla versus Kong? You say?
No, that's all of the movies.
Is that okay? All the movies. Okay, if I talk all the movies, right? I actually enjoyed 3 out of the 4, right?
Yeah.
So mine's like this, mine's like semi meh.
Yeah, like a
semi meh, straight up,
full on one.
Yeah. But if I talk about Godzilla versus Kong, it's like a meh. Like that's for me. Whereas like the other movies were actually all up here. They were all up here. Okay, maybe King of the Monsters, slight little tweak to that way. Just because of the length of it and the narrative. But I really hope they continue it. But that said, Toho is working on some of their newer takes on their movies. They are working on it, and
that's cool.
We'll start seeing some more Japanese stuff coming out. I mean, I loved Shin Godzilla. I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen that?
No, not yet. No, I haven't. No.
Okay, that is almost a flawless movie. It's really weird. It's like quite arty in certain instances, but that is literally what I want to see. That's like, this is a force of nature, unexplained, and humans are going to be punished now. It felt like the 1954 one, but they evolved it into a more modern sort of style. So, like, I really hope that Toho goes in that direction, or they can even go in the full-on cheesy direction. I don't care. Like, let them do that, because I enjoyed all of those kind of cheesy movies for what they are. I mean, I respect anybody who sits in a rubber suit for like weeks on end just trying to get like a specific shot where he's flying on the end of his tail. I mean, that's sort of...
remember that one.
Yeah, that's great, dude. Like, that stuff is just pure like unadulterated entertainment. But I do hope that they do continue it, and the success of this movie does that. So I'll give this movie that it potentially gave the springboard to continue the MonsterVerse, and we'll potentially see more of this Godzilla continue.
I just wish it they went a different route with Godzilla versus Kong, and like you said, particularly like your ideal approach to what they should have done would have made a lot more sense, and had a lot more openings for at least 2 other movies to follow, just by what you explained. And it's not difficult to put a story like that together. I reckon they did a Justice League on this and butchered the shit out of it, because they were like, okay, we don't know if it's going to make money, so let's just sort of kind of make it finished, and then if it does make money and we continue, we'll figure something out. Instead of just... Exactly. That's where I think the fault comes in, and it's very, very strange. Very strange. Yeah. But I agree. I hope it does continue, but it'd be nice to see if we could maybe skip this one as part of the canon.
Well, I mean, there are talks. There talks of like a Pacific Rim crossover. That would be cool. Maybe even Gundam, or maybe Can you imagine the sickest one is Macross and Godzilla. Dude.
Like
they'd lose.
Imagine Macross and King Ghidorah and Godzilla. that they're from space. I mean, dude, it would be awesome.
Yeah. Oh no, dude! I want to see space Godzilla again, man. That stuff was great, dude. And also, like, have you seen? Sorry, before we end this, obviously, I know it's going to end soon, but have you seen Godzilla versus Destroyer?
No. Okay.
Have you not? Okay, Godzilla versus Destroyer. That is honestly one of the best Godzilla stories ever. It is insane. You are going to die. Like the first time I watched it, it blew my brain, man. Like that's the sort of like scope of story and also level of what a Godzilla movie should be about. But just watch it. That scene in King of Monsters where Godzilla is like kind of super nuclear powered.
Oh yes,
because
where he goes like full on Super Saiyan.
Yeah, totally. And he like those things come like those big bursts of energy come off of him, and he burns Ghidorah's wings. That was amazing. That was like yes,
awesome.
I was like yeah. Anyway, that scene is from Godzilla vs. Destroyer. That's they took a nod to that. So do yourself a favor, watch that one. Watch Godzilla vs. Biollante, and watch Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. I know that you've only watched the first 9 movies, but if you have to like go and skip a few, choose those 3, and then you'll be very pleased.
I just thought of another addition to my ideal crossover. It's Gotcha Man, also Battle of the Planets.
Gotcha Man.
You remember Battle of the Planets?
Yes, I do. Oh, yes, they had that kind of like, almost like a falcon-looking.
Yeah, they had like their suits were like birds, and they had the God Phoenix, the plane that just turned into like a firebird.
Yes.
With King Ghidorah and Godzilla, that would be amazing because I would still.
Okay, wait. Let's just go way out there. Let's go out there. In this movie, what you're going to do, you're also going to add Voltron as well, right? Because he's also from space.
Yes.
And then also, wait, even better, Saber Rider. Do you remember Saber Rider? Do you remember that?
Dude, I remember that from when I was a kid.
Yeah. Dude, that theme song will always be stuck in my head. You know, I'm not going to sing it now because I cannot sing. But dude, just go watch the theme song after this. You can actually cue it right now.
Basically, we're just naming all the stuff that came out when we were like little children. In the early 80s and like late 80s, all that stuff that came out and we just like, we want that. And I reckon, I hope there's going to be a Gotcha Man movie because there was one produced in Japan in 2014, I think. And
really?
It wasn't, but you can only find a Japanese version. There's no subtitle or ADR or like an English, audio dub.
No, that sucks.
It's only Japanese. You can only get physical copies in Japan. But that's the only live action Gotcha Man that I know of, and it kind of looks a bit. It looks like Transformers movie mixed with Matrix Revolutions. Where it's just dark and grey and stuff. It just kind of like.
But they do that to kind of save on budget for CG. Yeah. So often they do that. But I'll watch it. I haven't seen it, so maybe I'll see if I can find it.
Well,
somewhere on the dark webs.
It must be. I mean, I must find it. I'll see what happens. Yes. But anyways, dude. Yeah, cool. Thanks a lot.
Okay, bro. Yeah.
And that was that.
Absolutely my pleasure. Yeah.
Maybe like
Hedorah for life.
Yes, definitely. Maybe we'll do something like this again. And
sure.
Before we go,
yes.
You've obviously watched Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yes, I have.
I'll leave it at
that. Yeah, flawless, absolutely perfection. I cried many times. It was just beautiful. Restore the Snyderverse, people. Restore it.
Restore the Snyderverse. I agree. Okay, cool. Thanks, everyone. Bye.